If you've ever felt like the third wheel, this podcast is for you.
If you love Wheel of Time, this podcast is for you.
If you're bored and have nothing better to do, this podcast is for you.
Join Rob,
Megan,
And Jen
in celebrating the Wheel of Time
and its statistically best fandom
and ridiculous gaming skills,
and probably a few cocktails.
and find out which one of them will be the third wheel this time.
This is
three-wheeling.
Hey! Hello, everybody!
Hello!
Welcome back to another three-wheeling. It's a four-wheeling today. It's not a three-wheeling. Because we have
all four wheels.
Four's the new three.
Four is the new three. Do we have our soundbite already? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Folks, that beautiful voice you just heard is the composer behind probably the most famous song in Wheel of Time now. I think that's not unreasonable to say.
Definitely not.
So, yeah, please welcome only our fourth ever guest to Three Wheeling Podcast. Yeah, because we're when I mean, we could say we're picky, but we have a criteria you have to meet to be a guest. So, you know, and
I'm honored to make the cut.
You've made the cut. Please welcome, and I apologize. Please let me get this right. Nikhil Koparkar. Have I said that right?
That's right.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm always nervous about getting names wrong, and I've been thinking about it all day.
Oh no, not at all. That's perfect. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me. It's a privilege to be able to chat with you all today. And as I was saying, before we started, it's like anytime we get a chance to talk about Wheel of Time, I'm in. So thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you here. You're following the lines of, so basically our criteria for having guests is we want to have people that work in the TV, and I suppose we would accept film industry as well, wouldn't we? We won't go that far.
Yes.
We'll be nice. We'll but yeah, we like to have basically just industry guests. Jen is our industry person, and we keep it that way. So we've had Ali and Gus, who are friends of the podcast as well, but they're like screenwriters and actors, and oh god, what have Ali and Gus not done? They're amazing.
That's wonderful.
And then we had Guy Roberts on last year at WhatCon, and then we broke our rules last time. We actually had Meg and Jen's cousin come and join us.
That's true, we did.
As a
She
show.
has no. Well, and then David, and we had David.
Oh,
Yeah,
and David.
we have my husband.
Yeah, there we go. You're a fifth guest. Sorry, I missed that. But yeah, welcome.
I forgot about Sam.
Yeah, he's not listening. He's not listening, and David's not listening today, so he won't be offended.
That's all right. Meg forgot about Sam. I forgot about David.
My cousin,
Yeah, there we go. It's okay. So, but yeah, it's great to have you here.
Likewise.
Meg, Jen, how are you two doing?
Good.
right.
I mean, good. Yeah, good.
Good.
God, you always sound terrible when he asks you that
I
question.
do. I'm the worst at answering that question because I'm a little too honest about being like, well, actually.
Normally Jen goes like, "Wow, it's been a week, but I'm glad to see your faces."
Yes,
So.
exactly.
I'm on summer
complicated,
vacay, so I am happy as a clam. Woo!
That is awesome.
And I am on
Yes.
summer vacay too, but I have a house full of 16-year-old teenagers downstairs because mine turned 16 yesterday, and so we had a bunch of kids over last night, and most of them spent the night, and they're also really sweet kids. Actually, that's making my life very good. Actually, it's great. Yeah,
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
yeah. Although if we do get some background noise, if we hear a couple hoots and hollers, they're doing a lot of gaming and throwing things around, and so it's
Par for the course,
Yeah.
You could probably blame that on me, because folks, if you hear weird music in the background, there is a giant music festival happening in the park next to where I live. So if you're familiar with the UK and Park Life Festival, it happens in Heaton Park in Manchester every year, and it's 2 streets over from where I live because I live next to the park, and it gets noisy. 50 Cent isn't. Yeah,
There you go.
50 Cent is not on today. He's on tomorrow. He was particularly loud when he was here 4 years ago. So hopefully it's quiet now. Hopefully it won't be too bad. But if it goes off, then it's my fault. So blame the kids on me, Jen. It's okay.
Thank you. I will.
Before we get going, we do have a start segment, Nikhil.
Cool.
So Jen, do you know what time it is, Jen?
I do. I think it's time to ask. What's Meg
drinking?
That might be
We're
the
never
best
gonna
one
get
yet,
that right.
guys. Good job.
I don't. Was that the best? Did that work? Okay.
it's like between the Zoom delay or the Riverside delay and the Atlantic Ocean between us, we will never say that exactly at the same time.
Well, we'll get it right at WhatCon and that's it. So,
Yeah.
So Meg is drinking the Hills of Tanchico. Yes, and I only made one because last time I made two so that they looked like boobies. But so this time I only made one because I have to drive later.
Yeah, it's fine.
What's in this Hills of Tanchico?
So the inspiration was, everybody's getting pretty turnt in Tanchico. So I was like, okay, maybe some kind of like a Long Island. But I was like, no, I need to get even more turnt than a Long Island. So it's basically a Long Island without tequila. And instead of Coke, it has High, which is a vodka vodka soda seltzer. So it's 3/4 of an ounce of vodka, 3/4 of an ounce of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of white rum, 3/4 of an ounce of triple sec, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, and then you top it with High, whatever flavor you would like. So
wow,
cheers!
I guess that cheers. I guess that that's the one's not enough and three's too many. It holds up, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for context, Nikhil, Meg is basically sponsored by High Noon.
I love it.
We wish.
I wish.
Nuna's is she lives for her Nuna's, bless her.
I sponsor Megan when I send her High Noon. We'll have to send you. Meg does a great demo video, so we'll have to send you the video of that one with both glasses in it.
Yes,
that's awesome.
It's a good video. So I am, as is now tradition, I'm drinking my Rocky Road.
Nice.
ASMR moment. There we go.
Nice.
It's a stout that I get from work, and I've decided I won't drink anything else because currently Wheel of Time is on a rocky road. I won't drink anything else until we get season 4 back.
Because it's happening.
It's happening.
I appreciate the solidarity and the drink.
Yes.
I haven't tried that particular. What brewing company is it?
So it's from Brewdog. It's the company I work for. Here I'm advertising it like I. I wish I was sponsored. Maybe not by Brewdog.
Not getting a cutback.
But yeah, it's I like stouts, and it's an easy one. So I pick that up and drink it.
That's cool. Yeah, I have to try that someday. I love beer of different kinds. I've always been an IPA person, but I love my stout as well. So
nice.
Great minds drink alike, right?
Yeah, you just come to Manchester and we'll go for a beer.
Yeah, sounds great.
Or I heard a rumor, Nikhil, you're going to be at WhatCon.
So I'm still trying to figure out the details with that. I'm hoping it all works out.
Okay.
I'm also supposed to visit my family around that time. So I'm trying to see if I can do both, but it's a little bit hairy. So I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping I can make it happen. But yeah, I would love to see you all in person and
I know
get to celebrate with you.
It is so fun. It is.
Yeah.
Is the only time the three of us actually will get together because Meg being a teacher, she obviously can't make the other conventions. So it's
like the Jordan Con and
Jordan Con.
Yeah.
So I mean, I held Valkyrie Con in August this year, and she still can't come out. So
We're going on a Hawaii trip. I can't afford to go to Prague too. Okay, God. Again, teacher. Don't have money.
That's a pretty good place to be, though. Hawaii, Prague, like decisions.
Do I tan? Do I not tan?
Well, no. I mean, I'm still going to Hawaii, but I will still look like this when I come back because I hide from the sun. So.
Amazing. All right, Meg, is there anything fun on the socials you wanted to show us before we carry on?
There was a really cute photo of, it was Donal, Kira, and Sibylla Medi, and I think Maya took the picture, but they were all like hanging out.
Oh,
so
that's cute. I think I did see that one actually. Yeah. Meg is our social sleuth, Nikhil. She always comes up with
social stalker. That's okay.
Social stalker. Yeah.
Say that.
now that everyone is like just chilling, it's every week she's like, no, they're just nice photos. So which is great.
But it's great that they're all getting to hang out afterwards too, because I would assume a lot of them are still based in Prague, right? Or they may be heading off.
Those ones are in England or
London. Okay.
There's a reasonable number that live in London. Some go everywhere else. But I mean, I think I can never track where Taylor is. One day he's in LA, the next day he seems to be in Europe, and then suddenly he was in
Right.
London, and I was just
On
like,
a
dude,
beach somewhere.
Yeah, on a beach somewhere. I think he saves all his travel photos and then just like spreads them out or something. I don't know.
Maybe so people like me can't be like, hey, I think he's at the LAX right now.
Right.
Yeah. Talk about
I recognize
stalker.
that
You're the
case.
bigger stalker.
Yeah.
You're like, I know where
Hypothetically,
his
of course.
flight is right now.
Yeah, I definitely didn't do that when Raga was at a Manchester City game, and I looked at my Instagram account, and she's like at the opening ceremonies to a game, and I'm like, that's the stadium my tram is going past right now. I know she's inside that stadium. I definitely didn't do that. So, all right, I do have some Save What updates. If you're listening, you're not familiar with the movement Save the Wheel of Time. Why have you not realized that? Go to savewhat.com and sign the petition and such. That's at 172,000 signatures so far, which is crazy. So congrats to everyone who's been sharing and signing that. But we have the next stage of the movement happening, and it's going to be really exciting. We are putting billboards around the world and a flyover over the studios in Culver City. So that is happening. That if you're listening on release day of the episode, that happened yesterday. Because it's happening on Tuesday. The episode comes out on Wednesday. So hopefully you saw the news about that. But the next day, there will be billboards going live. Next day, the billboard in New York City goes live. That's going to be all day long on Wednesday. And then on Friday, there will be billboards somewhere else in New York, Bryant Park, I think. Am I reading that right? 42nd Street and 6th.
I don't know where those things are. Yeah.
42nd and 6th Avenue there if you're in New York. And then there will also be digital billboards in Leicester Square in London and in Sunset Spectacular over in LA as well. So billboards everywhere. And then we're going to have some static billboards go up the week after, which will be in LA, San Paulo, and I think the Sydney one is still in the works, but the Sydney one should be happening as well. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Going worldwide.
The best fandom ever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 33.
Statistically.
Yes,
Statistically, exactly.
Yeah. With the $33,000 that were raised is being put to good use, folks. So, But yeah, keep an eye out for those. And hopefully that gets us some press and gets us over 200,000 signatures.
More press. There already has been a lot, I feel.
Yeah, more press. Good point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and some big press too. I saw there was a Nerdist article. There was, I think Collider, right? And then a bunch of
It's been
bunch
amazing.
of other ones as well. It's wonderful.
So, it's great.
I've actually never seen a dedicated campaign made by the fans for something that they love like this, and then also the press response, like where in the headlines or subheadlines, it's like explicitly calling out like, hey, this would be a great fit for XYZ streamer or something, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's really targeted. It's really it's been a smart campaign. Like it's great. It is great. I know.
Yeah. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things in the background. It's been great to see. I think we've got a list of 3, not me, but the 2 people that have been tracking down like media contacts and things like that to send press releases to. I think they send them to over 300 people now when the updates go out. So it's crazy, but yeah, it's
That's
very
great.
Fingers crossed that it makes things happen sooner rather than later, because it's going to happen. We've decided this, haven't we, Meg? So it's going to happen.
Manifest it into reality.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
We're all going to switch and go get Apple TV subscriptions if we don't already have them. So I will actually get an Apple product. I've never had an Apple product in my life, and I will actually get an Apple product.
That would be a great reason to start.
That's
Did
right.
you just tut me, Jen?
I did. I tutted you. Wow. I'm such an Apple.
Wow.
Embarrassingly Apple. I was going to use a bad word. I just like to say I like the products.
Because we don't say bad words here, but okay.
Of course not.
Yeah. By the way, Nikhil, this is not Dusty. Feel free to, if you
Drop as many F-bombs as you like.
If you wanted to, you are allowed to drop those F-bombs. So don't worry
Challenge
about
accepted.
That.
Excellent.
Well, okay. Let's see how many you drop then, because we'll kick off the questioning. Well, let's see how many you drop.
All right, awesome.
Now, I'm sure a lot of people meet you and they just like music. Tanchico, like all that sort of
Sure,
stuff immediately. But you're obviously a big Wheel of Time fan. So we would like to know your origin story of like how you found the books and, you know, your journey of becoming a fan and all that sort of, all that jazz.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, growing up, I loved reading, and I think I hadn't read very much fantasy, to be perfectly honest, growing up. I'd read the Harry Potter books when they were coming out. I was going to like the midnight releases and stuff, and that was really wonderful. I read The Hobbit, and that was about it, really, growing up. And I was reading a lot of other stuff. I was reading a lot of Stephen King and, you know, other stuff. And it wasn't really until 2019. I'd worked on a fantasy film before that, and I was like, I love this. I love working with live orchestra. I want to do more of this as a composer. And it just purely by chance. And, you know, I really feel like sometimes the universe presents opportunities when you have your antenna up in the, you know, right frequency or something. Because I remember thinking to myself, like, I would love to just find the biggest fantasy project I can find that's in development right now that I would have no business actually pitching for formally, but just as a mental exercise, because I figured, you know, if I reach way higher than I probably should, maybe it will make me think about scoring differently, pitching differently, and just the whole process creatively differently. And I was like, hey, maybe if it's an adaptation, I can read the books because I love to read. So I looked on IMDb and I saw that The Wheel of Time was being developed. And this was like, yeah, I think May or June of 2019. And I was like, oh, I'll pick up the first book. And then it was 15 books later, you know, it's like, I just went through the whole...
Don't even know what happened. You blacked out.
It's basically, yeah, I woke up the next year. It was like, what just happened? But I remember reading the first book, and, you know, obviously it feels very reminiscent of Tolkien and, you know, the kind of Lord of the Rings and like the Fellowship and stuff like that in particular. But I loved it. I still felt like there was something very different and special about that book. And I still feel like Eye of the World is just, to me, in the pantheon of all the books, like it's one of my favorites. But then I remember how I felt in the last third of The Great Hunt. And that whole sequence, I literally felt like I was hallucinating when I was reading it. Like I felt like my mind was expanding in real time. That's the best way I can describe it. And I was like, I need to read all these books and study the map. So I started doing that. And then this idea for a theme came to me, like just a melodic idea. I was like, I'm just going to write this as my pitch. And so I recorded it with the live orchestra, just using my savings, which is a crazy idea. But it's like, what could go wrong, you know? And this was in maybe July or August of 2019. And I sent it to the show's production. I sent it. I tweeted it with the hashtag Twitter of Time, you know, and then the fans took it and they started sharing it widely. It was like a video that I'd made, an orchestral video. And then Tor.com did an article on it. Eventually, Lorne Balfe, who got the show right to score, saw that video and he hired me to join his music team. So talk about coming full circle, really. And so I feel like The Wheel of Time for me represents so many things. I think it's like the love of fantasy, exploration of Eastern philosophy in a fantasy setting. Like it made me realize, like, oh, that could be fantasy too. I didn't realize how broad, how open of a canvas fantasy can be. And then it's like one of my favorite series of all time, you know. And then I got a chance to work on the show, and I feel like it's just been transformative for me on every front I can possibly imagine. Like both as a springboard for the imagination, creatively, you know, composing wise, everything. So yeah, it's just one of the greatest journeys of my life reading those books, honestly.
That's amazing. I love the comment Nils just put in chat right now. I'll throw up on screen so you can see it. It says, so what you're saying is the fandom helped make the Hills of Tanchico a thing.
Basically, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember when I first put that out there, I thanked the fans, you know, and that's that's been the wonderful thing is like I met so many fans of The Wheel of Time back in 2019 that I'm still in touch with now. You know, and it's like, that's the power of this community is The Wheel of Time. Obviously, Robert Jordan's books are amazing and they're legendary, you know, but then the fandom also gives it life in a new way, right? It gives a new dimensionality. It's like the whole tree falls in a forest thing, you know, it's like, it's a combination. It's a dance. It's the person who creates the art, and then it's the people who appreciate it. That the whole is greater than the sum of parts, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I love what you're talking about, sort of like both the full circle and the multiple layers of like how it hit on so many different places, and like taking the risk of recording with an orchestra and just throwing things out there, because one of the things that I love, and we weren't going to just talk about Hills of Tanchico, but one of the things that I just lost my mind about the song, and as a writer, I'm always trying to like double layer things, and there's a secondary meaning and a third meaning, and it's just, and I know that the fandom has also, like, because we have some great musicians in the fandom who've been like, it's also in the music of it, like everything is layered and everything has a second level and a second meaning and something else to it, and it's just a really it feels like that song is a little microcosm of the experience of reading the books and putting your stuff out there,
man.
and
that's like the ultimate compliment, because I'm a fellow fan of the books, and I remember how I felt reading specific things in the books, and I remember Tanchico was like one of my favorite geographical locations in the series.
That's great.
So I was so excited to explore that, and it's like I always think of just from a fan's perspective, and I try to do this with any adaptation related thing I'm working on, is like, how did I feel like reading that, and how can we bring that feeling into the music?
Mm-hmm.
It's hopefully the goal, at least, like, is that you write it from a place of love of how you felt experiencing that, and hopefully that love transfers to the person who gets to hear it. So it's like, I don't know, it's just that's my favorite part about exploring these worlds.
That's great.
It's awesome.
I love that. I remember, I obviously didn't realize you'd spent your savings on it as like a pitch. Not really.
I wouldn't recommend it as a matter of course, but
not really knowing how pitching to make music, to be a writer, to do any of those things that a show works through quote official or standard lines. But that obviously sounds like a big risk. It paid off. But I remember that video going out, and I actually remember commenting, being like, you absolutely should be writing the music for the TV show. This is incredible. I love it. I was feeling what it felt like to read the books listening to that song. I do remember it to this day. And as soon as I saw you, being part of the show and the musical compositions and such, I was like, I remember his song like that piece he wrote with the orchestra years ago. Like it was so amazing. So it is great to see that. I tried to live by the Wayne Gretzky motto of like, you miss 100% of the opportunity, the shots you don't make.
Right.
I've misquoted it there, but you understand what I'm saying. And that's absolutely the case there. So I love that. That's amazing.
100%. I mean, I feel the more I do this, or the more I experience the industry, the more it feels true. Like, I think the industry right now is going through a flux, it's going through a period of change. And it's like, it becomes that much more important, it's like the systems that we hold on to that are like, oh no, it should be this tried and true way, or this time tested way, or go through this channel or that channel. It's like, at some point you just kind of have to take a swing, At the very least you learn something. That was kind of my thought also, is like, if I spend my savings on this thing and it didn't work out, like, the worst thing that could possibly happen is I learn to be a better composer. I make connections with people along the way by putting my foot forward of like, this is the kind of stuff I want to do. Rather than like, hey, could you hire me for your stuff? You know what I mean? Like, it's a different vantage point to start a dialogue, maybe. So I was like, okay, even if it doesn't work out, an interesting experience can occur. So, and it did. So
that's a great.
It was interesting.
That's a great way to put it, because as you said, like, the industry is always changing. It's always in flux. So the path that you're supposed to take, it works for one person one time, and then that path doesn't work anymore. Like, the industry is always changing. And so, like, trying to find, like, this is the way you're supposed to do it, I think ends up making people give up, because if they follow the path you're supposed to do it just doesn't work that way a second time or a third time. My husband and I used to teach, we taught at CalArts for many years, and we used to tell our students that, like, the film industry is like the Arthurian quest, which is, I guess there's a rule among knights of the Round Table that if you enter the forest in the same place as another knight, your quest is invalid. You have to take a different path. And we were like, find your own path, because your truth is going to be there in the way that you process it and the way that you follow it. And like you said, I love what you said too about we do in this industry, we do so much work that never gets made, that never sees the light of day, that doesn't actually parlay into an immediate job. But the things that we can pick out from underneath it are always so, you have to approach it as, I'm still going to get something out of it, even if this particular thing doesn't go anywhere. Because otherwise, that's what we're doing. We're creating for the sense of creation, I think. And it's important to remember that. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm waxing poetic because I love your philosophy. And I'm like, I get it.
Preaching to the choir. Oh, no, totally. I really do feel that, though. There's no detours. It's like everything is the sum of our experiences.
Yep.
And it all leads to, the next thing that you're doing. And it's like, even, because for me, I started off playing in bands before I switched to composing. Had I not done that and made songwriting a primary focus, I don't know that I could have written The Hills of Tanchico, And it's like, never know. I was really exclusively scoring for the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to approach it from a songwriter's perspective with the scoring background was something I wouldn't have been able to do had I not taken that detour.
Yeah.
So, it's just, I think nothing is ever lost,
Yeah.
That's very true. I love it. Yeah, Meg and I are just enjoying the waxing poetics. I don't feel bad, Jen.
I tend to go.
Honestly, we were like, I
I
could see it on Meg's face. Both of us just like, yeah, this is great. I love this. So,
Like they're just like listening. It's so great.
It is.
So to get back to the books and just like you being a fan, so like, do you have a favorite character or a favorite like relationship or anything, or favorite moment, like something that really spoke to you?
It's so hard to say, honestly. I would say, okay, the last third of The Great Hunt, Dumai's Wells, of course. Some of the bigger sequences, I think Rand's arc in like book, I want to say, was it 11 through 13? I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but like
This
basically
is a full
there's a
spoiler
specific...
podcast.
We're full
so-
spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So basically, like, kind of where he almost completely goes into irredeemable territory, I guess you could say, right? It was that in book 11, was it? Knife of Dreams?
I think it was 12.
so.
Maybe.
Or 12.
Or was
maybe,
it 12?
Maybe 12.
Are we talking
Yeah.
about Veins of Gold?
Yeah.
No, or yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Or and then and Natram's Barrow when he like,
Oh,
the
yeah.
balefire.
the
and all
bale
that.
fires out.
Yeah.
Between that and kind of where he starts off at the beginning of book 14, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought it was I really everything leading up to that. I mean, but I just remember that particular sequence of events being really interesting. I think Egwene's arc is probably one of my favorites. Like her contributions
favorite.
from. Oh, she's just incredible, and like that's one thing I wish we could have all experienced in the show is to see that to completion. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. This is just a temporary pause, you guys.
Right.
Just,
This is a regroup. This is Amazon and Sony. They're not looking after it. They're So Apple's going to swoop in. I've decided, and just going to be like, here, loads of money. Go do what you want to do. We're not going to curtail you and
loads of money, a track record of supporting shows, and doing adaptations well.
Yes. And adapting the unadaptable. I mean, as everybody has said from the beginning, like 14 books, 15. It is such a huge challenge, and it's so difficult. And everybody on this podcast has been continuously impressed with like the really strong and interesting and fun choices they've made of adapting something like this and proving that it can be done.
100%. Yeah. And it's, I would imagine for the production too, like, I feel like I'm also seeing it from the outsider's perspective in certain respects, because, we would come in the post-production process, and that in itself would take a year or so, right? Just the music and VFX and all sorts of things. And we would be getting like almost the locked cut, locked edit, and we'd be sitting there working on it for 9 months. So, but I think I just imagine what the decisions they had to make in the first season, and like with COVID and everything, like all these restrictions, and then also, you know, it's the butterfly effect. Like even one small change is going to affect the other. So it's a very daunting thing to adapt in the first place. But then where they landed in season 3, incredible, you know, incredible television. So, you know, you could see it's like every show, it takes time to come into its own completely. You know, it's just that's the process. And like some of the greatest shows of all time have all taken a couple seasons to really find like that perfect balance.
Yeah.
You know, of everything they're trying to convey, and that's even with smaller scope. You know, like comedic sitcoms, right? Even they go through the. So it's like you could imagine, even, you know, like adapting the unadaptable would be that much more. So kudos to them, really.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of for comfort reasons, probably doing a lot of Star Trek rewatches at the moment. I just finished Voyager last week. I've decided I would start DS9 this week. They're my They're my two go-tos. I loved Next Generation. It was what I was raised on. Voyager is my favorite, and in my older years, I've grown to love DS9 a lot. Mostly Quark and Odo, if I'm honest. But I'm like episode 6 today when I was trying to rest on the couch after work, and I was like, this is just, you can just see the early stages where they're still trying to work everything out, and like how the dimensions between the characters, how does the technology work, what are the, you know, the overall arc of what they're going for the whole show, but like from start to finish, not just this episode or this season. It really is in that figuring out stage, and Star Trek is wildly successful. So, you know, all the shows need that.
Yeah, we think of those shows as being like a perfect show, or like completely encapsulated by the beginning, and you go back and you watch it, you're like, oh, they didn't know what they were doing yet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
100%. And I think that, you know, this is a symptom, I think, of film and TV as well as the music industry. Music industry, I think, was like, I think of these different forms of entertainment. I feel like the music industry has been dealing with these problems. And then, you know, now the film and TV industry are dealing with these problems. And like the book industry is also not too far behind the publishing industry. And it's like the idea of, you think about music how it was made 50 years ago, and people were given 5 album deals because they knew you weren't going to hit your stride until album 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, you know. And so people were allowed to develop their craft. They were, you know, given agency to do that. Same with film and TV. And, you know, now it's become very different. And I think it's also like the ownership of these entertainment industry, companies are, a lot of them are also owned by tech giants, and tech giants are going to have very different motivations for, you know, how they align with creative decisions, right? It's going to be just different motivations. And so, you know, I think that's why you see shows being canceled 1 season in, 2 seasons in, and it's like, but season 3, you know, it would have probably struck gold. And so, symptom of the times maybe, but
yeah.
We literally had a conversation on our last recording talking about how streaming companies don't know how to make money from streaming. Didn't we?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's so true. So true. Well, you've made Meg's day by saying that Egwene is your favorite, because
well, he didn't say that she was, but that he was one of her favorites. So
one of
yes.
But notice I did notice, Meg, that Nikhil did not say Perrin. So you know,
Meg and Rob have a long-standing feud between Egwene and Perrin.
Air quotes fight. Meg's just like can't stand Perrin. I'm like, Egwene's like, yeah, she's fine.
I am just
like, you know.
indifferent towards Perrin. I don't care.
Well, book Perrin. I should say book Perrin. I think we all that's the fun thing too about this series is that I think that we all are like, oh, this character that I didn't necessarily love in the books has become so amazing and special to us when being embodied through these wonderful actors. I'm not a giant Fael fan in the books, and every time right now with the show, with the cancellation, I'm like so devastated I'm not going to see more of that relationship.
Yes.
Because that was just like, oh my God, I love this. This is the way I wanted it to be in my head, that I felt like it didn't always necessarily play out that way. Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah. Was there a character watching the TV show for you, Nikhil, where you're like, actually, I really like them more in the TV show than I did in the books? Like, is there anyone jump out of you?
Yeah, I would say Leandrin for sure.
Oh,
You know, what they did with her character is incredible.
Yeah.
Moghedien, I felt like was
Seriously.
terrifying in the show, and that didn't come across in the same way in the books. And even though it kind of alluded to that, but I really felt like Moghedien's characterization in the show not only made her more terrifying, but made the Forsaken more terrifying as a presence. Like it just kind of lifted that whole stakes even more. So
A lot more
God,
unpredictable, which keeps you on the edge of your seats and very nervous.
100%.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about for you all?
Moghedien for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Moghedien's definitely up
Yeah.
there. I both love and hate the entire writing team for making me care so much about Leandrin. Because I'm like, I don't want to like her, but I feel sorry for her, but I don't want to feel sorry for her, which just shows how well she's written and performed by the writing team and by Kate. So yeah, that she definitely stands out for me. I like Lanfear more in the show.
I was going to say Lanfear. I mean,
I'm not obsessed the way like Matt is. I'm like, Lanfear's cool. She's not,
It's unhealthy.
I'm pretty obsessed. I'm far behind Matt. I'm not even close to a Matt Hatch level, but I am, I could watch Natasha do just about anything. Lanfear's a take it or leave it for me in the books. Not take it or leave it. I mean, she's super important, but I'm not like, she annoys me and I get mad, but in the show, I'm like, do something else. Take somebody else's head off. Do it.
Yeah, you're right. Because like in the I feel like in the books, some of these characters, like the ones we're talking about, they had a presence on the page that was really interesting, but they have a dimension on the screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of that and of characters and because there's two things, which is like when you're shortcutting everything on TV with character, you've got to shortcut character. So how can you give us the quick things to understand who they are? You don't have pages and pages and pages. But the other thing is those relationships and those connections. And I think something everybody's been not frustrated about, but the fandom's like, we want more Tom. We want more Tom. And honestly, I felt like we got the whole Tom, Elayne. I mean, just in your song, because that song was so loaded and all we had to do, like she's singing, he's just playing, but the looks that they're giving each other through that based on what's happening in the song and the enjoyment of them putting it together. I was like, oh, we got 4 books worth of relationship between Elayne and Tom in
100%
in a couple of minutes. It's a great way to help shortcut that storytelling for us as well. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There was
totally.
Yeah.
They have such a great dynamic, those two, and it does come down to the song. I have to say that really, like just calling each other names and be like girl and drunk and do you know the song? Oh man, and just all that. But then, like you say, the looks they're giving each other while she's singing, he's performing is just brilliant.
But then just 2 episodes later, when we get to see him saying, I'm willing to sacrifice myself for you. And she's like, I'm not going to let you. It actually had meaning. It landed because of like just that couple minutes of world building and relationship building.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I felt like, I would love to know what you all think about this, but I felt like season 3 was just a perfect juxtaposition of darkness and light. Like you would have the Tanchico song, then you'd suddenly have a Moghedien sequence and like, you had all this stuff, but that's really what made those books so great, you would have songs, you would have like maybe body humor alluding to things with double entendres, whatever, and then suddenly it's something dark and like it was about them all, right? It's about all aspects of the Wheel of Time, and that's what it's so dimensional, and I feel like this season really pushed on that theme.
I think specifically episode 306 as well, though. I mean, not just because you're here, but 306 is my favorite episode of the entire series.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
And awesome. I just like, I was having so much fun with things. And then like, you also had like, I mean, was that the scene with Rand crying over Alcera too? Was it that episode?
Yes.
307.
Yeah. 306.
So like, and that obviously is a very moving scene. So like, I was like clapping, I was crying, I was like, well, it takes a lot to make me cry. I wasn't crying, but I felt like I wanted to cry. But
She was getting misty.
I got misty. Yes.
Yeah. She's a teacher, so she don't cry. No, it takes a lot. So,
show your weakness.
I feed on teenagers' tears.
This is true.
It's true. Yeah.
Actually, you always have. Even when you were a small child, you fed on my teenage tears. It's true. This is not new.
No, there we go. But I definitely felt that light and dark, as you say, then Nikhil. Like I'm thinking Sembui and Maxim in episode 307, where they're having their banter over whether to use the Two Rivers longbow or the spears and the other things they were choosing to fight with. In between, what is a very grim looking episode in terms of their chances of getting out alive, and it just that was a constant theme throughout the entire season, and it was great. Really,
I feel like they hit that stride in 3 better. I mean, granted, season 2 it's very difficult under the story of the Shantan story of Egwene to find places to put humor or lightness in there without being disrespectful to the material. But it's almost like Star Wars or. I love the Hobbit movies, and I think there's plenty of humor in the Hobbit movies, but there's something about Lord of the Rings movies as movies that has that, the Merry and Pippin banter and the lightness with the really seriousness, and the original Star Wars films.
Gimli.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Legolas and Gimli stuff, and the original Star Wars movies have some real playful, fun stuff to it with horrible things going on that isn't always captured in later versions of it. I mean, I'm going to say I'm a drop dead fan of Andor the series, but there is no lightness in that series.
No,
there's
not at all.
Not really anything light. And I love it. But I think it's really wonderful to see that especially in season 3. And you're right, Meg, especially in 306. Like that episode gives us in some ways the highest of the highs and the lightest of the lights and the fun. I mean, watching Matt watch Elayne sing. And him being like,
she's
first of all, she's my friend, but also noticing all the ladies touching their boobies and being like, oh my god, it's like there's some really sweet moments in that. And then to go to Alcera and
and then even actually the scene with Magedion compelling Elayne and Nynaeve, it's scary, but there's also funny parts in that scene.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, let's just shout it out. Kudos to Remy Park for a really freaking amazing episode. As a fellow writer, I bow down. I am not where they. It's like some beautiful work. Yeah. Yeah.
Keep giving her episode 6 because 206 was incredible.
206 did make me cry. It did.
I mean, if it did,
yes.
If it didn't, you would
I
actually
would be dead.
You would have to be dead inside. Anyone who didn't watch that and didn't cry, you are soulless, clearly. But yeah, Remy did an amazing job. I remember talking to her about, because 206 was obviously the first one she'd written. She'd just did the origins for season 1, and I remember talking to her about that, and she's like, I'm really nervous. I was like, I watched the episode and I said, what the hell are you nervous about? That episode is insane. And then she was saying how she wanted a very different episode this time, and obviously we got all the Tanchico things. It's just incredible. And writing the song with you, so she had to do it. You had to do it in a really short period of time, writing that song, didn't you? The two of you.
Yeah, it was crazy how it all came together, and at the time, especially the music team I was working on, we were working on 5 shows at a time, and so I was like, and the way Lauren Balfe worked was, if we're working on a piece of music, we're seeing it through to the end. And if we're working on a show, we're writing on every episode, to maintain continuity. So I was writing on every episode of 5 different shows, and it was like Wheel of Time, His Dark Materials, Life on Our Planet, Nature docuseries, the couple of docuseries, and so it was full blown, and we were doing recording sessions for Wheel of Time, His Dark Materials, and Life on Our Planet at the same time.
Oh my god!
And it was like different time zones. I didn't know what was going on.
Wow. And some of it's going to come with NDAs where you can't talk about what you've watched, I bet.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot to juggle,
Yeah. That's
but
ridiculous.
The upshot of that was I felt very much like a well-oiled machine by that point in terms of having to write something fast. So I think that really served me during this time because, with production had sent me the script for episode 6 and then Raimi's writing for the Hills of Tanchico, it was in the script of where the verse would come in, what would happen around it. And then that was it. But it wasn't like choreographed or anything at that point. And it was, they wanted something that felt like a sea shanty, also combined Asian and African instrumentation, and that was it. And so I had the morning to do it, really. Started at, I think, like 9:30 in the morning, and I gave them a draft by like 1:30 p.m. And it was crazy because the demo that I gave them is basically everything you hear in the final version, of course, unmixed, but I'd put in my own vocals as like a placeholder just so they could hear what the song sounded like and what the melodies would be like, where the vocals would come in and out and stuff. But everything else is basically in that final version.
Wow.
I think they had
awesome.
like 2 notes. One was, oh, could we bring up the percussion a bit? And the other thing is like, oh, could we add a little bit more of the plucked instrument in this one section, And that was it, and it was approved like 48 hours after that. And then they were recording it the following week. So I was calling into Prague, It was insane. It was truly insane. So I was calling into like Prague, I think 3 a.m. calls,
Oh,
I think that
3 a.m. here is like noon there or whatever it is.
That creates magic, though. I think I've said this before, but I think sometimes those limitations are what really like makes something the most authentic. And
Yes.
yeah.
It's like a good dose of inspiration and not enough time, right?
Yes.
There's a quote something about that. Yeah,
Yes,
it does feel that way.
You can't second guess yourself too much.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, it's got to be this and it's got to be in. And maybe that's why I procrastinate about things and put them in at the very last second, and then they're good. Maybe that's what it is.
Because that's where the magic happens.
That's where the magic happens. I definitely
There's
don't
a
have
method to the madness,
My best friend definitely didn't get her degree and her highest scores with things that she put in. Like she started writing 3 hours before they were due.
Nice.
So it's definitely not a process that works. I love that. That's amazing. I just so fast. That's wild. Getting up 3 a.m. calls.
It was wonderful though, because Kira and Donald and Alexander, like they were just such wonderful people to work with too, and it was also a question of trying to figure out what would deliver justice to the song, because Elayne's character at the beginning is kind of unsure of herself, and she kind of finds her way through in the middle of the song when she leans into the joke and stuff, and it was perfect because. The first couple of takes that Kira's going to do is naturally going to be more restrained or hesitant, because that's just the way it is. And as she kind of warms up, like it gets more, she gets more into it. And so that's exactly how we combined the takes, it's like, it kind of worked out perfectly for what the song needed, and then Donald, like he has all this musical theater background experience, and he came in for the reprise. I think he was in for a full, 15-20 minutes, and that was it. He got it perfectly in the first take, and then we had, a safety take, and it's like, all right, see ya. I mean, awesome.
I've seen him before. We went to see Hadestown.
Cool.
That he was in, down in London. We actually went to see it, in previews, and Amazon had taken Donal off during previews to go do some last minute filming somewhere, and so we were like, what do you mean is Donal's not here? But we'd booked a second trip anyway with a much larger group, and we got to see him on that occasion.
That's awesome.
Yeah, his voice is incredible, as is Kira's and Alexander's.
Well, and can I say that it would be the biggest crime if we didn't get to hear Donal sing Jack of the Shadows.
Oh, I know. That's for the reboot, That's for the continuation.
That's right.
Well, that's a nice segue into the next question I was going to ask, because obviously the Hills of Tanchico it's not in the book, so that's a song that they've asked, right? I think the story is that it was a karaoke party, or a party that had karaoke, and then Kira sang, and people were like, "We need to give her a song."
Right.
Let's do this. Poor Taylor, never getting a song from what I hear. Bless him. It's all right, Taylor. I'm in that camp too. Is there something from the books where you've read the section and be like, oh my god, I'd love to write a piece of music for this scene, or just
Jack of Shadows? I think that would be an amazing one to do. And if there ever is some continuation, that would be something I would pitch to try to work on. I think, I think there's so many musical moments throughout the books that would be really interesting. That one sticks out to me personally. But yeah.
Yeah, the Band of the Red Hand has a lot of musical potential, I think.
Right.
Sure.
Yep. And the great part about it is like every single geographical location, every single book really has a kind of almost a visual identity, even if it's in your head canon, and then also kind of a corresponding sonic identity because of it.
Yeah.
So it's like with Tanchico, it was a way to come. It's like you think about Robert Jordan's writing, it was so the cultural influences were always like you don't know where one culture ends and the other begins, and was it the Shanchen that had like Asian influences, but then with like a Southern drawl or something, right? Wasn't that the one? So what a combination, like what compelled him to think of those things? Well, it's because, on one hand, it's disparately different. And it's because of that, the contrast, again, whole is, different to the sum of parts. So from that standpoint, like musically, there's so much that one can do. It's like you can take instruments, you can play them out of context, and suddenly it's like, what is that? And that was the goal with Hills of Tanchico, is like, you don't want to feel like you're in Asia or in Africa. You want to feel like you're in the Wheel of Time, specifically in Tanchico. So what is that? Then it's like, there was a mandolin that I doubled with like a Malaysian plucked instrument.
Wow.
And the idea is that you bury it so that like it's even if it's prominent, you don't really know where one ends and the other begins. So you go, what is that? And that's the goal. So you can say, what is that? And as a question, then at least, it's nebulous enough that you could make it into something that feels in-world rather than like some geographical location we can all relate to here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was perfect. And it just shows Robert Jordan's writing, because Sharon gets the same thing with all the costume inspiration she gets. I'm curious. You've mentioned like, we played this or we played that. How many instruments do you play, Nikhil? Like, do you know?
Yeah, well, I grew up playing piano, and then I played guitar and drums and bass. As far as like I write a lot for orchestra, in all my other projects and stuff, and I don't play violin or any woodwind instruments, any brass instruments, but I think as a composer, you kind of have to get to know those instruments really well. And so oftentimes, like when I was first starting out, I would be learning orchestration I would be reading books of scores and listening to music like in my free time, instead of reading a fantasy book, I'd be picking up score books. And, but then also, I would speak to a lot to players, and I would do a lot of sessions with soloists in my own work. And so that was a great learning ground, because you could notate stuff. You could ask them like, is this playable? What's the best way to approach this? And then oftentimes, like any session I would do, I would always leave some time at the end to go, okay, forget about the notes. How would you interpret this? And they're going to do it in a different way,
Yeah.
It specifically to the Wheel of Time, even when we were working with soloists, it was like, okay, that's the traditional way of playing it, but like, let's play it the wrong way. What does that feel like, and sometimes I would even order, I think it's somewhere around here. Oh, here it is. I would order instruments that I would want to kind of learn how to play the wrong way. So I was working on this horror score, and I found this instrument from Thailand called a ken, which is like a bamboo instrument that you play by like blowing into it here.
Oh my god!
And so, I didn't know how to play it. So, of course, I ordered one from Thailand. And, what could go wrong again? And, but the best part is you don't always need to play things the right way.
Yeah.
And oftentimes you don't want to, because you don't want to subscribe to a tradition, because it's world building, and world building doesn't necessarily, you don't want to be able to locate it, So all this to say is, I have my core instruments I could play, but then I'm also very curious about learning about other instruments, and whether I ever learn to play them myself or not. I'm passionate about that,
That's amazing.
So.
Because only the patrons are actually able to watch us. For folks that are listening, the instrument that Nikhil picked up, it was like a I don't know, like a small.
It's like
ball. Yeah, it was like a bit in the middle that you blew into, and then pipes came vertically out the top and the bottom, didn't it?
Yeah,
It looked like,
yeah.
Okay. So you can visualize that, folks. It was definitely not what I expected. I was like, that's not like a wind up or something, and then I saw this like pipes coming out the bottom, and I was like, oh, you're blowing it like that. That's quite an instrument. I love that.
It's cool. It's like, oh, why not put it in a horror film? You know, it's like, again, it's something you would never expect it to be in. It was a film about Cape Cod. Like, why would it be Thailand? But, you know, sometimes it's just the right, sometimes it's the right, you know, it feels like the wind in the ocean. Okay, that could work, you know. And then out of context, you're not going to necessarily think about Thailand. So
yeah.
That's
amazing.
the idea, at least. But
That's great.
I do have one more question for you. So you talked about reading scores and listening to stuff. So who would be your favorite like film composer as you were like growing up a musician? Yeah.
As I was growing up, so I remember between the ages of 8 and 10, I feel very fortunate to have suddenly discovered film music. I went to a sleepover, watched the Star Wars films. Around that time, I saw the Superman films and Indiana Jones. Then I went to go see Home Alone in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then I saw Jurassic Park in the theaters.
Mm.
And I just remember that specifically feeling like everyone in the theater was, it was just silent, you know, pin drop silence. Like you could feel almost like we're witnessing something important here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of those scores, I would be like, what is this? John Williams, you know? So, he definitely influenced me a lot. His approach to melody. I just love melodies and scores. I've always been very much a fan of that. And then, you know, Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings scores when I saw those in the theaters. And I still listen to those all the time. I love them. And then more recently, I've been very interested in people who recontextualize instruments or do weird stuff as well. Like there's, and this is completely the opposite of this, but Colin Stetson did the score for Hereditary, which was this horror film from, I think, 2018, maybe it was. And he's a saxophone player. So he played saxophone on it. And all these weird sound, like if you ever get a chance to listen to that score, by the way, check it out.
Okay.
It is the most gnarly score. And it's like, I never knew saxophone could be so terrifying. You know, it's like, I never would have thought.
Jen
like,
used to play the saxophone.
I did play sax, so I have to check this out.
You have to check it out, yeah. I'm very curious to hear what you think.
So, live rendition of that score at WhatCon by Jen Sedai.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. I'm in.
I'll bring my horn.
I mean, yeah, you don't think horror when you think saxophone. You think like cool.
No, well,
you know, like
maybe.
Well, when I play it, you might think horror, but not in a good way.
Jen, if I go near an instrument, you think horror. So don't worry, you're fine. I took piano lessons before COVID. In fact, I still have the weighted electric piano.
Oh, nice.
And I never got beyond playing When the Saints Go Marching In. It was as much as I got to.
Nice.
So yeah, I was definitely. It was. Yeah, I do not touch pianos when I go past them as much as I would like to be able to do this. So yeah, don't worry.
It's funny you would mention Home Alone in those, because you know with John Williams we always think about the big epic stories, and I remember vividly when I was like, oh, he's even more of a genius than I knew he was. When I was back at Mom and Dad's, Megan, and it was the first time I had seen Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And let's not talk about one of the characters who shows up in it. But when Catherine O'Hara, who I love, is standing at the fountain and she sees Kevin across the fountain, I was not that invested in the movie. And I started bawling. Megan, I do cry. And I started bawling. And then I had this out-of-body experience where I was like, oh, damn you, John Williams. It was you. I don't care about this movie. I just care because the score was like so intense and amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He does do that with his movies. It's amazing.
That particular scene I remember.
Yeah, so good.
I think I get my sense of drama from watching movies that Howard Shore has like composed, like especially Lord of the Rings. Like I was obsessed with them when they came out. I was, you know, I remember going to see Two Towers, and the only seats available were in the very, very front row. This is, you know, 20 years ago. Cinemas were, you know, bigger and stuff because they, you know, were still making money back then. They, you know, can't figure out how to make money these days. But yeah, and I'm like, we're front row, me and my friend, and we're like there, necks craned, like half down the seat so we can see the whole screen properly. And I'm like, I do not care. And the music was just insane. I definitely think I get my If I do anything that has a sense of drama to it, especially if it includes music, I'm always like, I want music that's gonna like give me that sort of tone or vibe or feel. I definitely feel like that he's influenced that. So
he's amazing. Yeah,
music does make a big difference.
Another, I don't know if you all are familiar, but another composer that I really fell in love with recently, and maybe about 5 years ago, and I actually got a chance to work with him, which was like a bucket list moment for me, was a composer named Emile Mosseri, who he wrote the score for this film called Minari. It was like an A24 film.
Oh.
And some of the most beautiful, it's like, it's almost blends like, orchestral thematic stuff with like late 60s, almost like post psychedelia folk stuff. And I don't even know how to quite describe it, but it is beautiful, beautiful music. And I remember he would like record, there was, for that particular score, there's a lot of piano in it. And it's about this immigrant family, Korean, I think, that moved to Arkansas in the 80s. And it's like a coming of age kind of story of, a beautiful story. And he recorded it on his like beat up upright piano in his studio. And it's like he recorded it with an iPhone, like not to any click track or anything, just like recorded the thing.
Wow.
And then he had the opportunity to record it on a grand piano at East West Studios, which is like one of the top of, all time. And he's like, should I do it? Should I not? In the end, decided on the iPhone recording, which is what appears in the movie, because in that it sounds a little grainy. You can hear the squeak of the pedal.
Yeah.
And it just that makes it feel more kind of homespun, or like it makes it feel more down to earth, which is what the story is ultimately about, this family.
Yeah.
Sticking together through this adversity of being like one of the only Korean immigrant families in the 80s there, and I just thought that was brilliant, and it deconstructed for me everything I thought I knew about scoring. It's like, because John Williams comes from the very traditional style of scoring, which I loved, but that was such a completely different approach, and it serves the story, it serves the characters really well, but it was a deconstructed version of the other stuff. So just a nice little contrast.
Yeah.
That is cool.
There's definitely something to, if you're doing any production that is a little more less polished or like down to earth or meant to be, earthy or whatever sort of descriptor you want to use.
Yeah,
there's definitely something to be said for using, recording methods that give you that effect rather than like, a grand piano, in that studio is going to be in perfect mint condition and play flawlessly, but it's not going to give you that real authentic feeling of what the movie's trying to give you. So yeah, there's definitely something to a time and place for everything that fits. Nils in chat has just come up and asked a question, which was actually how I was going to round out, because I'm conscious of the time and I needed to go. But he's asking, and I was going to ask the same thing. I'm assuming you've heard of What Idol?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I just heard about it recently, actually, like a couple months ago. When I think it was on the Dusty Wheel, maybe or something.
Yeah, because Matt and John and Lauren from Unraveling the Pattern. They're like the three of them get together and produce every year.
It's so cool. Yeah.
You have missed out on many years. All of us have entered. It's going to happen in August. Do you, I think you should maybe enter a song. You might win. I don't know.
I'm just curious to see how
prizes.
how many parodies of the Hills of Tanchico are going to be in this year's What Idol.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, we predict.
I'm sure there will be several.
Yeah, so they get somewhere between. I think the first year they got like in the 50s in terms of numbers of entries.
Wow.
And last time they got 80, 78, 82.
That's amazing.
Something like that.
Well, Jen, you already wrote a parody for Hills of Tanchico for my birthday, remember?
I did.
You did?
I
did. We got to hear that at some point.
We could share it on the DL. It was a very... It was a Zoom call live recording to Megan.
And I started crying because I was laughing so hard. It was so good.
That's what's so great.
We'll get Jen to record a voice note for you, and
brilliant.
That can go in the NDA section of the recording.
Yes,
Friend DA,
That's right.
Yeah, the friend DA. There we go. Perfect. So Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us, Nicole. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Honestly,
it's been such a pleasure.
It's been so great chatting with you three. Like it's been really wonderful. Thank you for having me, and definitely looking forward to doing it again at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I hope you come to WalkCon. I really hope you do.
Yeah.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm really hoping all the scheduling and everything works
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
There will absolutely. I know for a fact there's always a sing along on. Is it the Talkies do on Saturday night?
Saturday night. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
there's a sing along late in the evening, like sort of
Yeah.
9:30, 10ish or something. It starts. And I know for a fact that Hills of Tanchico will probably be sung 3 or 4 times during that.
I'm sure.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
One
There
is
are-
not enough, but 3 is too many. So
No, three is still not enough on that occasion for that moment. Yeah, so-
One's not enough, and 3 is not enough, and
Yeah.
5 is not enough.
yeah, just play it continuously. But also at MalkyriCon, Juliet Howland's going to attend this year, and
Oh, wow.
she is unable to bring a guitar with her, but we've managed to source her a guitar, and she's going to perform a few songs. And she's like, maybe I could do Hills of Tanchico. I was like,
Oh,
yes. So
That is too cool.
Yeah, there'll be a recording of that at MalkyriCon in late
When will
August as
that
well.
be?
That's the last weekend in August.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's normally the first week in September, but the first weekend. But we had a scheduling issue for this year, so we went the last weekend of August.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
we have that in Prague. Hopefully, we continue to have it in Prague because when the TV show gets renewed. Otherwise, we have
Right.
But like it'll be happening at conventions anyway, so we'll make sure people record it and we get it sent to you.
Oh,
and stuff,
that's
so
awesome.
You can enjoy that.
Yeah. And hopefully I can see you all in person in
yeah.
That would be
July.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
So.
No.
Well, folks, thank you for hanging out, everybody who's come and join us in chat. Laura, Like Blinded Fool, Nils, it's great to see you all. And if you're listening at home, please like the podcast, rate, review, all those usual things. 5 stars, and we'll read them out, obviously. That's how it works. That's the given. You give us 4, we don't care. We do care. But you can find us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, which is 3wheeling.madktalks.com, and on Instagram 3.wheeling. Our individual Blue Sky accounts are listed in the description of the show, along with Meg's cocktails, because we got asked that earlier in the chat. And just go out there and have fun. Oh, we didn't. I actually have a What a Positivity. I forgot. We normally do.
Yeah.
We do a What a Positivity end. We always like to end on a high note.
Cool.
I did a day trip to Dublin yesterday. I live in Manchester, so I can do that. It's actually a cheap flight. It's 45 minutes. It was amazing. First flight in the morning, last flight at night, and I had work at 6:30 this morning. I was very, very tired. But it was worth it because my friend was doing a road trip tour around Ireland, and she was only going to be available that day. So it was like in and out of the day. I was chatting to her about my other friend in Wisconsin that is the reason that I made all my friends in Wisconsin, because I went to go visit. We dated a very long time ago. Long story, won't explain it, but it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant at this stage. But it's how I ended up in Wisconsin, how I met all these other people that I know. It's a great story, honestly. If you want to get half an hour of a context of wild things happening, including getting robbed, find me at a convention and get me talking about it, people. Yeah, it's a long story.
Drink a couple Hills of Tanchico, you'll be all set.
Exactly.
It's got some twists and turns. You won't believe what happens in it. It sounds like I'm making it up. Anyway, she was asking, Katie, who I was seeing, was asking about Jordan, my friend. And she was like, how's things going? I was like, yeah, she's, loving her life sort of thing. Her and her partner, Taylor, like, everything's great. Like, this is a girl who's never going to get married and stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I joked. I was like, yeah, she's going to get engaged. It's kind of come up soon. I can see it happening. They're already living together. I was at work today having a hard work. I took my break. I looked at my phone and it was a message from Jordan saying, oh, guess what happened to us last night?
Aw.
Taylor asked me to marry him, and I said yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I was like,
Congratulations.
basically, as I was saying, hey, they're probably going to get engaged soon, they were going away for whatever they did
You're
yesterday.
really good
to
at
actually-
manifesting things. Keep
Yeah.
manifesting
I'm just reading.
things.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. I manifested an engagement yesterday. I'm going to manifest to season 4 and beyond the Wheel of Time after that. So
Thank you for your service.
Doing the light
everyone's got to be good at something. So, And that's it. So thank you so much, everyone. And we will, one more recording before WalkCon.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We've got to check the calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
I've
have
got
to
to get a
talk about
cosplay
that
together.
off the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. All right, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Once again, we've proven that even when you're the third wheel,
You can always find a place to fit in.
Join us next time
On Three Wheeling.
on three-wheeling.
on Free Wheeling.